We're back with a big idea and my guest tonight, Ann Coulter. Okay, Ann, we're going to do a little grading here because you're not shy about stuff. Let's grade our President Bush. How's he doing so far?
There are a lot of complaints I have with him. On Harry Myers, for example. You want divisive. Listen to Republicans, divisive, shrill, and angry.
I want to grade for him. A, 8.5. Where are we grading him?
B+. I mean, he's fought the war on terrorism.
Tell me how he's fought the war on terrorism. I want to understand that. We're fighting a war on terrorism.
And for that, he deserves our support, despite whatever else I disagree with him on. By the way,
any president, you have to. He does. Of course, he's fighting the war on terrorism. That's the number one. That will be that number one priority. That job for the rest of time.
You who claims liberals don't exist. Look, you had a bunch of liberals opposing Hillary for voting for the war with Iran.
I'm talking about in a post 9/11 world.
No. Democrats would not, and if they did...
Okay, by the way, a Democrat will not get elected.
Unless it were Joe Lieberman.
A Democrat will not ever get elected again in this country if he or she does not understand the fiber of what every human being wants now is to feel safe and protected.
I agree.
Our birthright, our God right, what we took for granted that we were going to be okay, we may not. So
I agree.
That's price of entry. That's not Democrat, Republican.
No,
that's
it
liberal,
is
conservative.
Democrat, Republican. The one Democrat, and for supporting the war in Iraq, Hillary now gets the crazymoveon.org protesters there.
Okay.
No Democrat, because of the base of the Democratic Party. The real problem for the Democrats, I must say, I mean, you've either got to become a Republican or reform the Democratic Party. And oddly enough, I think the real problem for the Democrats are the universities, the left's madrasas now. I mean, in places where Ward Churchill and this other nut that's come forward now who says 9/11 was an inside job, these are professors. And at some schools, they're ginning up basically semi-retarded kids into dangerous psychopaths. And that's become MoveOn.org. That's the base of the Democratic Party.
Okay, I want to come back.
Even
That's not
like
the base
Joe
of the
Lieberman
Democratic Party. Come on.
It is.
It's
and
not,
look what's happening to Joe Lieberman. He's the one Democrat being primaried and viciously, and Barbara Streisand supporting his opponent. Don't tell me liberals are ghosts.
Listen to me. Liberals do not exist en masse in this country anymore. They don't. It's a label that you are pulling for the future.
For some time now.
I want to go back to the premise that there is no candidate that does not understand, that is not going to win. That you're doing this dirty trick again that, Democrats don't understand that fighting war on terror is top priority. That's absurd.
No, they're against it.
I'm
not saying they don't have it as a top priority. They are against it.
Fighting in Iraq does not equal fighting the war on terror. It's one way.
Of course it does.
No, but that's the argument.
And by the way, that's how they voted, and that's what the American people thought when Democrats had to vote.
You and I are the ambassador and the ambassadoress for fighting war on terror. We can rewind the clock. And once again, I preface and say I'm not going to do that because Monday morning quarterbacking is easy. If you had $250 billion to spend to make us safer against terrorism, would you spend it in Iraq? And the answer is no. That's not to say we don't have to fight it there. Is that the best? If we took the 20 greatest minds in this country, and we know now what we knew then.
Yes.
Is that the way you would line up your gun? That's the way we would do it.
Yes. I mean,
Explain to me why, because I can't get that.
Always hear, Saddam wasn't responsible for 9/11. Yeah, okay. Hitler wasn't responsible for Pearl Harbor. And by the way, we went to war in
Saddam is an evil man, but you can't. What the Republicans keep doing is saying, okay. Boy, you're fighting terrorism? What, you weren't for us getting Saddam? It's not about that. Was that the best way to prioritize?
Yes. We weren't attacked on 9/11 by a country. We were attacked by something that is spread in many countries. And then, by the way, the war that liberals pretend to support, the war in Afghanistan.
We've established the liberals don't exist. Man, stop with the liberals anymore. We've already established, up front, I talked to you about me. There are a lot of guys, a lot of women like me running around this country.
Tell Joe Lieberman there are no liberals.
Okay, listen to me. Liberal does not equate, I'm not sure about the war on Iraq.
You're annoyed at people might think you are a liberal.
How can anybody think no, I'm annoyed that you are painting an enemy out there that doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't exist.
You said no, it doesn't. I travel the country. I take people pulses for a living. I take polls for a living. The critter that you're describing, we can't fight the war. We're not for terrorism, and let's just do everything for. That doesn't exist. That's a tiny sliver. You're fighting a war that doesn't exist.
That's in the driver's seat of the Democratic Party.
You're sure about that?
Yes. But if we could get back to why we needed to fight in Iraq, we weren't attacked by the country of Afghanistan either. We weren't attacked by the Taliban. It was a game of musical chairs with Osama having been in Saudi Arabia, Sudan, whereas Sudan offered him to President Bush. He happens to set up his tent in Afghanistan. Why do liberals pretend to support that war?
Once again, I still don't know who these liberals are. I want to ask you the question again. You have $250 billion to spend. You and I, emperor and empress of fighting terrorism. We wind back the clock several years. That's the dollars we have. The game is to build a fence around this country. Is the smartest way to use that to put Saddam in that hole?
Well,
Is that not that he didn't belong in that hole, but is that the best use of our dollars?
I might have invested in more nukes, but apparently this country is not willing to take civilian casualties, which, by the way, is why the rebuilding takes so long. I mean, after World War II, there were werewolves, as they were called. There were insurgents who were Nazis.
I don't want to talk about World War II.
But it's an important comparison. That is because we carpet bombed German cities.
Okay.
We killed so many civilians in World War II, so there were fewer insurgents. Now we can't do that anymore. Now we must have surgical strikes on the precise terrorists. Then you're going to have more of an
I'm for making
problem.
parking lots. I'm for making parking lots. And by the way, what you said about North Korea, nuke them, not such a crazy idea. Obviously, say tongue in cheek. So once again, I don't know where the liberals are. They're not over here, okay? So my question to you, once again, when you give Bush a B+, and once again, he's our president.
Maybe
I respect
an A-.
him. I think you're out of your mind. I think but to say that this war in Iraq was the right way to fight terrorism is absurd. And obviously we know the principles it was built on.
But that is because, I just want to establish this, that is because you'd go with my plan of just investing in nukes.
No, that's because it was built on weapons of mass destruction that weren't there, and it's an unwinnable war at this point, and we got a mess. I'm not saying to pull out.
The WMD thing.
That's what. So did Tim Russell make that up also?
What liberals have made up about that? Sorry, I know they don't exist, but just for purposes of argument.
The liberals are okay. The people underneath the Port Authority who are putting those 4 widows in front. Okay, this whole thing that exists.
Okay, so I can make a sentence about this. The liberals that don't exist are lying about who was so hip on weapons of mass destruction. This is in my last book, How to Talk to a Liberal. Columns I was writing leading up to the war, so it's not like I had to go back and look them up. Frank Rich's complaint in the New York Times, and many liberals' complaint, was the problem with the administration's case for war with Iraq is they won't settle on one reason. They keep giving us too many reasons. Is it to establish democracy? Is it to get rid of the rape rooms? Is it to remove the weapons of mass destruction? It was the Democrats, and there are Democrats, that's provable. Madeleine Albright, John Kerry, writing in the New York Times saying all we have to do is disarm Saddam Hussein, and that's why we need to send in UN weapons inspectors. Well, UN weapons inspectors do one thing. They inspect for weapons. They don't remove rape rooms. They don't save the Kurds. They don't establish democracy.
They're giving you a minute sign in the final 30 seconds, because I know you want to do that. I know you so well, and I know how bright you are and how sensitive you are. You want to say, I'm selling a lot of books, but I really was out of line what I said about those widows.
That's preposterous.
You got to say it. I know you want to do it. It's the only reason you came here. It's right there. America is waiting. You want to say it.
No, I think the Jersey girls should apologize for what they've done to America.
You and I can agree on that, but I found that offensive. I found you horrible about that, and I know you will come on next time and apologize,
I will.
right?
No, I will not.
Appreciate it.